Hello everybody and welcome to the October 2023 update from Clydebridge station. Plans often get changed, and in the case of Clydebridge station that's no different. My original plan this month was to do work on replacing the concrete in the depot, but for reasons that I'll explain in a few minutes, that plan has changed. But for something for the better, I have to admit, and you'll find out all about that shortly. It's also the 40th birthday of Scotrail, and we'll talk about that in just one moment. There'll be no trains running on the layout this month, which I can only apologise about, but they might not be running for a couple of months at least. But you'll see why during the programme. As usual, there'll be the shout outs to the various layouts and non-model railway people. And as usual, I'll start off with my good friend David Watson with his layout here on YouTube and Facebook, Dean Park Station, and Richard Warren with Everard Junction, which you'll find here on YouTube and also on Instagram. So if you go and check them out, please. And thanks to another mate, Craig Mason, who runs the new Durham Junction layout, I've got given a little testing device to test whether there's power going to your track or not. And it's a simple one that you can make up yourself. I'll show you that during the programme and tell you about something that I'm going to be getting from Stockton Junction in the future. I'll be buying something off him that'll help improve the shopping centre experience, which is badly needing improved. So, if you're ready folks, all aboard and enjoy the programme, and any comments, queries or suggestions, put them in the comments box below. Back in September, it was the 40th birthday of Scotrail. The Scotrail franchise as we know it today can trace its route back to rail privatisation in 1996, but the actual Scotrail name goes back to September 1983 and is partly due to sectorisation that had occurred in January 1982. The Scottish region of British Rail and Scotrail are two different things. I must make that very clear right now, and I'll explain a bit more about that shortly. By sectorisation, there were three passenger carrying sectors: Intercity, which is represented here, the London and South East sector, which became Network South East, and provincial services, which were all the other passenger services that were left over. Provincial, which became regional railways in November 1990, divided itself up into various regions itself. These were South Wales and West, North West and North Wales, North East, Central and East, and lastly Scotland. The general manager for the Scottish region of provincial, Scottish area of provincial, was Chris Green, and he devised the Scotrail name in 1983, which started to be applied to rolling stock. And the following year, a livery similar to that of Intercity, but with a blue stripe as opposed to a red stripe, was employed on the push-pull locomotives. Non-push-pull 47s belonging to Scotrail later gained a red stripe livery that was first applied in late 1985 to a couple of 47s, although there is of course the one-off 47461, which went from Intercity red stripe to Scotrail blue stripe. No one knows why. The Scotrail marketing name was very successful. It led to a real renaissance in the railway in Scotland, and when Scotrail became regional railways in when provincial became regional railways in 1990, the decision was made that the Scotrail brand would be retained. In the policy document, the link to which I'll put in the description below, regional railways simply said that Regional railways will trade as regional railways in England and Wales, and Scotrail in Scotland, because it was a very popular and well-known brand name. The locomotives that you see here all carry, or did carry at one time, the Scotrail blue stripe livery, and that's why they're parked here, to form a formidable display. Not these locomotives, but these locomotives here. 47708 Waverley, a locomotive I actually travelled behind. 47701, which carried the name St Andrew when it was based in Scotland, but is carrying the name Old Oak Common Traction and Rolling Stock Depot with its Network South East livery. Chris Green, of course, moved from being General Manager of the Scottish area of Provincial to Sector Director for London and South East, and in June 1986 created the Network South East brand. Charles Rennie Mackintosh, 47461, the only 47/4 to carry the blue striped Scotrail livery. Haymarket, 47715, which retains its Scottish name. 47706, a locomotive I travelled in front of on a push-pull train. I used to carry the name Strathclyde, but lost that name in 1986. 47712, Lady Diana Spencer in Parcels red livery, but again an ex-Scottish Scotrail machine, and it now wears Scotrail livery in preservation. And I must explain the difference between Scotrail and the Scottish region of British Rail. Scotrail was the part of the provincial services sector, regional railways as mentioned to you, and it owned the rolling stock, managed the stations, devised the timetables in consultation with the regions and other sectors, and done all the marketing and fairs. The Scottish region of British Rail was responsible for owned the stations and employed the staff that ran the stations and the trains, and was responsible for the infrastructure as well. In other words, the Scottish region was responsible for the people and infrastructure. Scotrail was responsible for the rolling stock and the marketing and scheduling. And that was the difference between them. So it's quite a formidable display there, but happy 40th birthday, Scotrail, and here's to at least another 40 years. And in true honour time, there'll be improvements done here to this station as well, because I think you all can see that the ballast that I've got here is the wrong type of ballast. That should be N-gauge ballast I have down there. That will be getting changed through time. So the track will be coming up and it'll give me a chance to replace all this, but that is a long way down the road. We're going to move now on to the depot where there's a bigger change, but before I do, some shout outs. I'll give some louts a shout out. And we'll start off with Dudley Central, set in the West Midlands PTE Central area. If you give him a check out please. West Blyth MPD, which is set in the northeast of England, and as the name suggests, is a motive power depot. And a non-model railway shout out we'll give to is my good friend and neighbour Amy, who does her own hair extensions business. She's on Facebook, and I'll put the link to their business in the description below. So if you're needing any extensions to your hair done, please give Amy a chat. And no, Amy has not put any extensions onto my big spiky hair. Mine's is all natural. Right, onto the depot. What the hell's going on here, you're asking? Right, I can explain to you what's actually going on here. Now, my original plan had been just to replace the concrete in this area here and leave the track down. But a major problem occurred. One of the points that's here, a major fault occurred with it. Locomotives were going okay in this section and going up that way, but trying to go straight on, they stopped on the point. I put another dropper wire in here, but the same problem occurred. There was still no power. Investigations carried out by Craig at New Durham Junction and by Jim down at Scooney Hobbies has resulted in me getting some new points that will be going into this area here, and I've got some new track that's going to be going here, and I suspect it'll be the same. These will all have to be replaced, these straight sections. New cork is going to go down, but also new ballast is going to go down, and it might seem quite expensive at £16.50, but this is actually the right ballast now. It was Ryan Gray and that went and pointed out to me from Eden Road TMD that the ballast is too big. If you put that ballast there next to a person's head, it's the same size. You don't get that on the real railway. So we'll be using N-gauge ballast instead, and this is the stuff I'm going to be using. This won't be getting used again. I've only got that down to, how can I put it? Weigh this down basically. And this futile attempt at trying to improve the area here by mixing in cinders to try and make it look dirty and oily, that's all coming up. And what will be happening is there'll be a Hatton's oil spill kit going in there instead. I'm going to take up this concrete too, and I'll replace it with new concrete once the track work's done. However, the concrete itself is currently on 2 or 3 layers, so I might need to actually have it on just the 1 layer. I don't know yet, because I'm using thicker grey board from SMS, and just to show you the indications there how that is, so I may actually get away with using less concrete. The track layout is going to be exactly the same, and as part of this project over the next couple of months, it'll go right up to this junction here, but I won't be replacing these points. These mainline points are going to be done differently at another time. One other problem I'll have is obviously the tunnel section here, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do much here apart from because I'd need to dismantle the whole street scene to get into it. I'm going to just have to leave this as it is and maybe just put a little sprinkling on the top. But this track is going to have to come up too, because there's a problem here with the points here that's causing derailments at times. So that's going to need to be investigated and come up. So I'm going to be having a lot of hard work over the next couple of years. But hey ho, as my mate Troy admitted, who's not into model railways, you always find something to tinker about. And as David Watson, Dean Park Station said, they don't get finished, they just evolve. Right now I'm scraping up all the old ballast on these 2 roads, and then I'll start to remove the track here and do the same. This little kit here that I built, that is going to go back down. That's a scale model scenery floodlight kit. I'll just put that up there now. The engine shed, single road engine shed, will go back down eventually in its normal place. And I might be able to reuse this track, or I may have to actually get other track. Another thing that I'm going to be doing is, when I pin the track back down, a little tip I've been given by Craig Mason is to avoid rust, put a little bit of black paint on. So I'll have black paint here. That'll also be useful for when I come to eventually redo the road scene here, and you can see just how much it's gone up. This was the original bit that I'd done, by the way, and you can see there it's just on the 1 layer of grey board. So I'll just put that back there now. I haven't tried that back down yet because I left this to dry for a couple of days after laying it to get an idea. This is all going to get taken up and we'll have a brand new blank canvas to work from. These bits here, by the way, I'm going to actually keep in here and in here, but I'll cover it with a lot of vegetation and other rubbish and scattered material just to hide it a bit. I think that's what I'll do there. and this gap here is where the dropper wires are going to come back through for this road here. I'm going to have to start going and removing the rest of this. I'll then get the track back down so you can have a quick look at it, just to see what things are going to be like. That's all the concrete removed there, and this has been scraped clean as far as I can. That'll be hoovered up, or the vacuum cleaners are available, of course. I've put the track back in right now. It's not put in right, but this again is going to show you the layout. It'll be here. One thing I must point out as well is that I'll get the ballast taken out of these, and there'll be an extra bit of track which will be achieved by cutting one piece of the flexi track here. It'll form the extension in there, so it'll look something like that. Now, yeah, it'll be, I think it'll be akin to something like that there. So the engine shed will sit here, and I suspect it's this piece of track needs to actually go in there. None of this will be properly pinned down at first until on that bit there, until I've got it all sorted out, but this bit can be pinned down once all the cork's down. These cork pieces here could actually stay because there's no ballast in some of these bits, but all of this is going to have to come up. There's all sorts of pins and that here that'll have to come up. But that, as I say, looks to be how it's all going to go together so far. So I think I'll need to cut a piece of that track off. I only took it apart on Saturday and I can't damn well remember 3 days later how it all went together. We'll take that back off for now because I say that we'll get that fixed up later on. And as I say, cork is going to go right on here, and it'll go along here too. And then we'll have to do these bits here too. This siding is going to be pretty awkward to do. That's why I'm not going to put the concrete down until afterwards. But what I'm thinking for the siding here is just to use our Hatton's oil spill kit all the way around, because the shunter sits in there a lot of the time. But I'll put the ballast right up to here, and it gives me a chance to also fix the problem with the points here too as I go along. I'll move the sleeper train out the road now. These will have to come off temporarily, but as I say, it'll give me a chance to get other things fixed to do with the track. This is going to be good news for people who enjoy watching this channel, want to see the series carry on for a bit longer than originally planned. The track is fine because I actually did test it using an old piece of track before I ripped it all up again. So I know the track's fine, but as I say, I won't be replacing this stuff now until I've done thorough testing again and made sure that it's all in place and all working properly. Now, I mentioned a layout earlier called Stockton Junction. That's actually not set in the northeast of England, but it's actually set in the southwest of England. So if you give him a check out on YouTube, and he's got something I've got for the shopping centre, which is what we're going to discuss next. This is my shopping centre, the second one that I built, because the original one was just a bit of plastic card along there. And it's a good shopping centre, but it has its problems, and the most obvious ones are that we've just got shop names and no shop fronts there, and the windows are all different sizes. I mean, that one there compared to that one, so it doesn't look right at all. And we've got the same problem here, but in addition, I've also got the problem that these signs are far too big. Stockton Junction on here on YouTube is making up a pack of things, or packs of things to sell, and one of them is going to be images of shop interiors. That's going to be ideal for here. So I'll be able to have the Woolworths name still with a shop interior, a lot of Woods with a shop interior, and I'll try and make up the actual shop fronts with the doors and windows as well. So this will all be coming off, and it'll be new windows that'll be getting put in to the correct sizes, and here as well. But we'll also have, as I say, shop interiors that'll make it look a bit better, and maybe the new windows being bigger and all the same size and tidier will actually allow more light in as well. The people that you see here will still be the same as well, they'll still all be there. And for instance, this one here, I've got Wrangler authorised stockist. More about Wrangler in a minute. I'll be able to put in a company called Jean Division. Got a couple of friends of mine who live in Lanarkshire, and some family members in Lanarkshire. There was actually a clothing company called Jean Division, who had various shops throughout Lanarkshire. The company has long since been defunct, but although I believe that the back entrance of the shop arcade in Motherwell, one of the back entrances has a name on it still with Jean Division. So the company did exist in Motherwell at one time, but it's long gone now. So I'll be able to put Jean Division and then have Wrangler authorised stockist on the shop name as well. And over here we'll get these windows made a bit better. My limitation here is obviously that the wall is a bit high there. Now that has come about partly because of the way I've had to stick it on. It is going to get resized slightly in the new year, or eventually. But what I will do for the moment, I'll try and get it to the same size as that originally, because I'm going to be redoing the retaining wall. I will get these windows made bigger to the same height as those, and then that'll allow this to be dropped down a little bit eventually, but that's obviously well into the future. That's actually going to be possibly a 2025 job, depending upon how things go here. So I've already mentioned just Stockton Junction, so check him out on YouTube. And if you check out my friends at Wrangler, I'm a volunteer ambassador for Wrangler. www.wrangler.com, and I'll take you to the local site in your territory, so you can check them out as well. We'll get back over to the depot and we'll have a look at progress and see how things are going now. This will be music to the ears of Scoony Hobbies, but I'm going to have to get more track. I thought that anyway, because when I was trying to lift up the next track on this side, and despite me actually putting pins down, removing the pins that I'd put in originally, it still took the track off the sleeper. So I thought, yeah, that's going to be the case. Going to be new track here. Points should come up no problem. It's everything else that's going to be the difficulty. Now, one other thing to point out is that I've just put water in, but I've used it from the same jug as what the PV water mixture usually goes in. But all I'm doing is putting water in and letting it soak in, and then it should allow me to scrape it off. So you're effectively doing the reverse of gluing your ballast down. You're just putting the water in without the PVA mixture. The cork is going to go even over here as well, and some of this might end up coming up too accidentally. If it does, not a problem, new stuff will go down. But a lot of vegetation is going to end up going in here to try and disguise some of this. And it'll give me a chance to, as well, to fix the area here with these points. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll see if we can fix it. Well, I know Bob the Builder can fix it, but I'm not Bob the Builder. I've been quite fortunate here. Now, this cork I've managed to, salvage. I've had to put new bits down there. You know, they'll get glued, they'll adhere in a few days. I managed to have just enough PVA to actually get another sheet down, so I've still got cork to put here and to put here, and that'll be done in the next few days. I need to nip down to Scoony Hobbies to get that new straight track and a couple of bits of curved track. And this is a point I just want to make now, a personal point as well. We need to support our local model shops. They're not as widespread as, say, Tesco's. They're not as widespread as petrol stations. We do need to look after our model shops. They exist for us, so we need to make use of them. I'll put the link to Scoony Hobbies in Kirkcaldy in the description below, and you can have a check of that. I'm going to have to nip down there and get some more cork, get some more long straights of track, and then we can make a start at putting things back together again. And you may well also be questioning about where I'm going to put the little holes again for the dropper wires. Don't worry about that, because I've got a cunning little plan sorted out, which will involve me looking underneath for them, and I could see them, and just popping something back through there to pierce the cork. Once it's dried though, I won't be doing it tonight, it'll be once it's dried, so I can get the track all put back together again. And as I say, I've already managed to salvage some of the track. The ballast there will just have to get knocked out, which I'll be able to do. I've not been so fortunate with this piece here, but as I say, I'll get them from Scoony Hobbies. And the points, well, they've been salvaged. That's a depot track all relayed. It's not all pinned down. The only bit that is pinned down so far is this part here. And I will make a confession to you. I had to swap these two rails around, these two pieces of track around, because originally there were derailments occurring. And what I shall do is I shall bring 47474 back up. And you never know, we might actually get a repeat of the problem. If not, I'll then describe the problem to you. But yes, I've tested it out on all the track. I've actually got to reinstall some of the dropper wires, as you could actually see there. So that will come in after I've pinned the track down. I'll just send 47474 around. I chose this just out of random. This is the test locomotive. It was also derailing about here previously, so I have already tested it off camera, and it worked fine once I swapped the pieces of track around. So let's see what happens this time. I'm expecting it to derail those points because it's not pinned down, but it isn't. I'll just send it back up to where the fueling point will be, but I'm actually quite pleased that I've finally got it right. Took a hell of a time like, but there we go, we'll send it up to the end there. The only problem I've now got is here, as you can see, there's a little bit of the track like that, so I'm going to have to try and play about and move it a little bit, but actually I think I've now got it. Yes, I've got it. I'll bring 47474 into this siding, because this is actually where the problem started. Incidentally, by amazing coincidence, 47474 being the first loco into the new depot track was in 1990 the very first locomotive to carry the then new parcel sector livery of red and grey that you see here. Whoops. Change of point, that would help. And there's enough clearance for another loco to go in here. I'll just send 47474 back now. Yes, it was the very first parcel sector liveried locomotive on British Rail, being released from Doncaster in May 1990, and then a few weeks later the very first AC electric locomotive to carry this livery was 86419, which also then got the name Post Haste that had previously been applied to a Class 73, 73138. And I must say I do like that livery. 47569 the Gloucestershire Regiment and 47712 Lady Diana Spencer, the other two locos on my layout that have that parcel sector livery, although 569 is going to have to go in for repair. I'll need to get Scoony Hobbies to send that to Norman to get that fixed, but there you go. So I'm quite happy with that. Once it's all pinned down, it'll be tested again, but just to show you something, I'm going to just put the depot building on, to let you see how it'll look there now. And yes, I think that once that's in position there, yeah, then that problem manifests itself. So what I'll now need to do is to cut the track to about here. So what I'm going to do is we'll move the buffer stops. I need to cut that track a bit. So if I move the buffer stops to there, then the question is, can we get a loco in here? The alternative is to get a piece of straight track and make this area a little bit shorter. That would then allow me to get that track in there. Actually, I'm going to explore that option first. Take this piece out, replace it with a shorter piece, which might move everything along a bit, and then I can actually extend these tracks a little bit if need be. Mission accomplished. I've changed it for a shorter bit of spare flexi track that I've had, and as you can see 47474 fits in there perfectly. And what I'm also just going to do is I've got here my trusty Mark IV coach. Now the Mark IV will not appear on the layout in normal service, but this is being used as a little test coach. There's just, you can see there's just enough clearance. If I put this up here, basically if the Mark IV can get around the track, anything can. And to make sure the clearance, I'm going to send it into this bay here. I'll just push it in myself with my hand. Now, that looks okay. What I'm now needing to do is to send 47474 forward. I want to see. I'll just stop it there and I'll send it back. That was all I need. That was all I needed to do. I want to check the clearance on that there. That's perfect, because obviously the Mark IV coach, as you can see, is a lot longer than the 47. Basically, if a 47 could pass that Mark IV coach, then a 47 in that side would have no problem as well. Get the power turned off. The next job is to get the track all pinned down, and then I'll test it again, and then once it's pinned down, I'll get these spare bits of sleeper put back underneath the track, like so. Actually, there'll just be a single one there, and that'll just make it look a bit realistic again where possible. And we're still a long way away from ballasting, even once that's done. And then I've got the fueling point to put in here, and then we need to have a serious look at this here, because that needs to get more glue put on it. That's PVA glue I've used. Don't ever use Yoo-hoo glue or super glue to glue these down. Use PVA glue and use it neat. I might just cut that a little bit there so it fits in, no bother. As for this piece here, I'll need to make up another one of that size, which will sit again there. I'll need to actually make it a little bit longer, not much longer, so that it can be in line with the tracks here. And I've got some spare concrete, and this will just have to come off and be put back on afterwards. Like I say, we're a long way away from ballasting the track. That's not going to happen for several months, but my good friends at Scoony Hobbies got me this little thing. This is a ballast glue applicator, although I am actually just going to use it for applying ballast on its own. I think that's how I can, yeah, I'm sure I could use it for that. Anyway, oops, sorry. Anyway. You can actually glue the ballast down with that. That's quite a good idea. But that's a long way away. Let's see, I've got to get the buildings sorted out, the track pinned down, and other things there. The buffer stops, they're going to get replaced through time with Gauge Master ones, and they'll also have the Gauge Master lights on them. And as I say, we'll get this sorted out. Rejoin me in a minute. The concrete is going back in as you would expect. This is just temporary here. This might not stay here. This could be moved again as well, the fuel storage tanks, although they seem to be okay there. This is glued in position, and we'll get this little chap here glued into position around about here maybe, or over here somewhere anyway. It could be anywhere random. We'll get him put in there. I've cut a piece of modelling card that's going to sit here, and I'll make another piece that will come along here, and I'll show you that in a minute. But then we'll turn our attention to up here to finish this month's video, and I'll make a piece with the curve there, but it'll have to be a little bit longer because obviously we've got this gap here and the tracks are almost level now. You can see that they're not quite level, but they're almost level at the ends there. So it means that this bit will then have to be it won't be scrapped, but it'll be kept spare in case I could use it somewhere else. This fencing will have to come back off and it'll be put onto the new one. If I take this off the now, you can see this gap here. How I'll deal with that is I'll put vegetation in there, because obviously people would come up here and go into there, so vegetation will be absolutely fine in there. One piece of advice that I've been given off people is don't ballast until you've got all these concrete strips and pieces down. My mate Bob Impett, happy retirement by the way, Bob. He retired yesterday at the time of the filming of this programme on the 1st of October. He was the one that suggested I put a little bit of concrete strip along here and maybe a curbstone to simulate protection from oil spills going onto the track. So let me know what you think of that. This obviously is going to stay, but I'm going to put a lot more vegetation on there in the future, but that's a long way down the line. And as for here, this will be covered in the Hatton's oil spill kit, because obviously the locomotives are going to be spending a lot of their time here. I must actually point out as well, whilst I'm here, is that I haven't actually soldered on the dropper wires yet. I'll do that for the next update, which will be in the November update. I'll do that then. The ones that are going to go under here, they'll go back under here, and they'll probably be some of the first done. So I'll need to do them before I have the concrete strips put down here. That's why I'm taking my time with things. I want to make sure things are absolutely working right. And as for this here, as you can see, it's all diddle-diddle-dee. That's all going to get taken up, and we're going to try and level it out a bit. I maybe need to use modelling card to level it out so it's all straight, because let's face it, I don't even think the Victorians ever had a wall like that. I might need to cut bits off to make it all level and get it back properly. I mean, this is not acceptable. We accept that. Okay, we accept something not acceptable. And I've not hoovered the street scene yet, but I will do that. But the street scene is going to get resurfaced next year using the modelling card again, and there'll be a couple of little changes. We'll rebuild the Quadrant Park nightclub, and we'll rebuild Radio Rentals as well. There we go, that's the concrete in here. A little bit wider than what I intended, but not to worry, it's in place. And the fuel storage tanks I've put there now. Again, you're not stuck down, but this chap is, so he's now stuck back down. This isn't. Up at the other end here, that's the new bit in there. Now, while you keep watching that, I'm going to get up the engine shed, and what we'll do, I'll sit about there. There you go. I mean, you just go over a little bit. There we go. So that's roughly where the engine shed will sit. Now the difference here for the engine shed is that the tracks in there, as you can see, that I'm going to have to then put an extra level on the grey board, the modelling card, sorry. But the engine shed, as I say, will sit about there. This fence here, when I took the other fence off the other piece, a couple of bits got broken a little bit, and you could just see they're a little bit shorter there. I've not got rid of it yet. I might actually keep that and use it somewhere else. It's always handy to keep it as a spare, and I could always disguise the breakage with, say, more vegetation and weeds, because you would get a lot of weeds in places like this. The track gives plenty of room there for locomotives to go in and out of the shed. Now I'll get the test loco up, 47474. I'll just push it into the shed. So it probably just needs to come over a little bit more, and I think that'll be sufficient there. I'll need to draw lines to where the engine shed would sit, and then do the concreting work for that differently from the rest of the concreting area here. But that is roughly where I need the engine shed to be. Now that's the work done for this October update. Next month's update will feature some more work getting done on the depot. I'll need to probably order more concrete in. So I'll concentrate really up on this point here and this area here to try and get some more concrete down. And it will probably also include the little ground frames to operate the points as well. Unlike in the previous layout, the concrete will actually be like this. It won't be that, it won't be the hard standing stuff that I used before. It'll be exactly what you're seeing here right now. And whilst that might make it a bit of a dull finish, there'll be a couple of things I'll add to it that will make the interest there. Something like, for instance, we've got our lights here, they're depot lamps, and we've also got stuff that's to go back in the engine shed as well, or certainly on the floor of the engine shed. Put them back up there. So this month has been all change at the depot, change for the better, I think we'll all agree, and I'll also next month be reinstalling all the dropper wires to to give the depot area extra power too. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this month's update. Please do check out the layouts that I've suggested to you as well, and other people that have suggested to you as well. And I shall see you very soon for the next update here from Clydebridge Station. And given the fact that I'm redoing the depot, it means there's going to be quite a few extra programmes for you to enjoy. Whatever you're doing, please do take good care of yourselves, won't you, and enjoy your layouts, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.